Hi, this is Chris Oberg, and I'm with Elder Sandy Roberts. We're here again in the Dome in Atlanta. We've just finished our day of business. It's Monday. And Sandy, we're so glad that you are here with us for a few days. Now, everybody at home in Southeastern California Conference is not aware you were not planning to be here, and I wish you would tell us how you ended up here.
I had not planned to come because of our conference finances, and it is an expensive time for hotels and travel. And with our conference finances, the 5% pay cut in effect, I decided not to come. But our conference committee this last week did basically order me to come for a few days. That told me I represent them and they wanted me to be here. So I'm here, and it's been wonderful to be here. I go home tomorrow.
So there is a real ministry of presence that's been happening. I've noticed as Sandy moves around the building, it's really important for us that we have one of our female leaders here. It's very important, I'm noticing, as you move around the hallways, that we have you here, your ministry of presence, to have a female leader in the building at the level where Sandy leads, when we don't have that so much around the country. We did elect a lot of leaders today, and most important to us back home is a new North American Division president. The name came in and it was a little bit surprising because it's not someone many of us know, Dan Jackson, who's been leading the church in Canada since I think 2001, and that was a little bit surprising.
It was. The names for potential candidates do float among the delegates here and on the floor, and this was a name that hadn't been circulating much among all the whispering that was going on, so we were surprised, but we believe again that God led, and it was a good thing for our division.
I was telling him, because yesterday he stopped me in the hallway and had a conversation with me just randomly. I told him today, yesterday you were just the guy from Canada. Now you're our new division president. He said, actually, I'm still just the guy from Canada. Now, today there were a lot more changes. The updates happening to the church manual. We had 95 of them we're working through. Sandy, I know you work a lot with the church manual. What did you hear today that's important for us?
Today there were a lot of continuing editorial changes to the church manual, but I think there were also some that were very substantive. One this morning had to do with something we knew was coming in, and that was a recommendation to add wording for the ordination of deaconesses. Quite a bit, about an hour and a half of conversation today on the floor regarding that, but in the end there was a recommendation to use some simpler wording rather than what was recommended by the committee, and that got voted. Wording that just enables us to do the ordination for deacons and deaconesses very similar to what we do for elders, and it passed with a huge majority. So that was a great thing today. This afternoon, there was further conversation and recommendations to change the manual to just tighten up and make sure that we are providing a safe environment for victims, especially victims of child abuse in our churches, which again was a wonderful moment here, I believe, as our church made sure that we have wording that will protect those victims. That was a great thing today.
I was thinking about Audrey Johnson at home in the conference office, because Audrey has worked on this issue for decades, actually, and I know she'd be very proud of what happened. Now, there was a little bit of, juicy scandal that happened here. There was an attempt to send something back to the nominating committee with our list of officers we voted in for the different divisions. Tell us what happened.
We voted on the presidents this morning for all 13 divisions. This afternoon, the nominating committee came in with the recommendations for the secretaries and treasurers. And someone stood up from the TED and recommended, because there were not enough women on the slate of candidates and they did not feel it was representative of our church, that they send it back. I've never seen that happen before. It was voted down eventually, but again, a strong statement about inclusiveness in our church and the need to continue to work towards that.
Yes. Also in the Trans-European Division, they returned the name of a secretary, an executive secretary, to serve the division who's female, which is really good news. That's a first, if I'm right. Yeah, so that was great news. Well, we've seen a lot of different things as we move around the hallways and the buildings. And Sandy, I'm wondering if you can just capture what's meant a lot to you, what's been meaningful as you've moved around.
I've been so inspired just with my conversations I've been able to have walking back and forth to the hotel, in the hallways. They're crowded, packed pathways that we travel on, but just an ability to talk to people from around the world and hear their stories, to this morning. I was running down to breakfast. I was in the elevator and met some pastors from Cuba. Their stories were so inspiring to me. Their faithfulness under tough conditions. And I just was blessed for those few minutes to be able to converse with them and hear what they're doing. And I think those stories I just continue to hear as we walk around from all over the world. And that for me is enough of a reason to be here.
It makes you a little less feeling like complaining about our own work when you hear what some of the rest of the world church is doing. We had a moment on Sabbath in the crowded buses where it was hot outside and we were waiting a long time to get our ride back to the hotel. And with the heat and the humidity, we were feeling a little grumpy. All of a sudden we heard one voice in the back of the bus, and if you listened carefully, you could recognize, "This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long." One voice turned to a few and a few more, and before you knew it, this whole group of people from Africa filled the bus with music. They sang hymn after hymn until we finally got back to the hotel. It's just been that kind of a spirit here as you're mixing with people in the hallways and in the rooms. That's been really a blessing. It makes me glad to be here and glad that the conference sent me. So we'll see about tomorrow. It's a whole new day of business. And until then, this is your Southeastern California Conference Viewpoint.